Hi students, I hope all of you had good health. So today we will be beginning with our next video lesson, matter and its composition. Now, when we look around us, we see different types of things such as water, soil, stones, minerals, plants, animals, and so on. We also use innumerable objects in our daily lives like books, pens, bags, shoes, cars. All these things have different shape and sizes. Some of them are living like plants and animals, while some other are non-living like water, soil, and so on. Some natural things like mineral, air, water, living beings, while some are man-made like book, pencil, paper, houses, etc. But what makes up all these substances? The answer is matter. In fact, the food we eat, clothes we wear, books we read, the chair on which we sit, are all made up of different materials. In science, the term matter is used for all these things. That means matter is anything that has mass and occupies space. Now, what is mass, students? It is the quantity of substance present in an object. Then what is space? Space is the spatial area that is occupied by an object. As these diagrams, students, you all can see, there are three types of substances taken, that is solid, liquid and gas. Now, all these substances are holding a particular space in order to settle them. So, in a complete sentence, we can again say that matter is anything that has mass and occupies space. Next is, what are the different characteristics that are associated with matter? First of all, matter is made up of tiny particles called molecules, which in turn is made up of atoms. As we have already discussed, students, that molecules are the smallest particle of matter which have an independent existence, whereas atom is the smallest indivisible particle that is not having an independent existence. So these are the two components that make up matter. Next is, matter occupies space. As I told you, whenever I will be keeping a box or a book or some other object in a particular site, It will occupy some of the space. Even if you want, you cannot replace it and try to keep some other things in its place until and unless you remove the object from that place. So the area which is being occupied or the volume which is being occupied by this matter is known as the space. And matter also has mass. Matter also has mass. Now, what is mass, students? It is the amount of matter contained in an object. Now, if you take an empty bottle in hand and weigh it in a weighing machine, you will see that, or you will observe that that empty bottle has a particular weight. When you fill up the bottle with water, the weight increases. Why the weight is increasing? Because you have added water in it. And what is water, student? Again, a type of matter. That means in the previous case, you were just measuring the empty bottle with air, so it was having less weight. But in the second case, when you are adding water, it will be heavier. So it proves that matter has mass. Next is we will prove that air is a type of matter and it has mass and occupies space too. So what we are doing here is, students, we have taken two balloons. One is red. As you can see over here, this is the red balloon, and another is blue balloon of equal sizes, and we have inflated it by blowing air. Then after blowing air, we will be tying these two atoms at two ends of a beam balance. Next, as because the weight of these two balloons is same, so the pointer is exactly pointing at the middle, which shows that the two ends of the scale or the beam balance is equal. Next, in the second step, if you deflate one of the balloon, like as in this case, it is shown that the blue balloon has been deflated. What happens? Slowly the beam balance tilts on one side, which shows that the red balloon is heavier. So this side of the beam balance come down, and since on the right side the blue balloon is not having so much of weight, so it rises up. It proves that red balloon containing air atoms in it have more mass than the blue. Thus it proves that air has mass. Then in the second point, we conclude that space occupied by the deflated balloon is less than the red balloon, as because we have bursted the balloon. So when we are blowing the air inside the balloon, it started swelling up. Why? Because the air we are blowing, it is occupying the space within the constricted balloon. Now when after bursting the balloon, we see that all the air from inside of the balloon comes out. the space occupied by the air inside reduces. So this proves that air occupies space. Here is an example, students, which again proves that matter has mass. So let me explain you, students. Over here what I have done is I have taken two glass. In one of the glass I have poured some water, and in another glass I have poured some marble. At the initial level, the level of water in both the glasses were same. But after few days what happened? The level of water in the second glass rises up. Now why it has rises up? Why it has risen up? Because the marble occupies some space. When we have put it inside the glass, it displaces the water from its own place and occupies that space of the water. Now, what happens to the water? It rises up from the initial to one of the final level. That is why it seems as if the water level has risen. So this proves that matter occupies space. Even I have pointed out the numbers also, like in number 1 I have written water in the glass occupies a specific space and has specific mass. In the second step, when we add marbles in it, the water level rises as it occupies space and displaces the water in the glass. In the third point, I have written, if we weigh these two glasses, that is water without marble, glass water without marble, and glass water with marble, we will find that glass water with marble will be heavier than the glass water without marble, which proves that matter has mass. Next is, what is the composition of matter then? Now, over here I have taken the example of a water molecule as because it is a very common molecule which you have come across so far and you can better understand this phenomena. Now students, the molecular formula of water is H2O. That means 2 hydrogen atom is present over there along with 1 oxygen atom. Now what happens, students? In this diagram you can see that in order to form a water molecule, 2 hydrogen atom has to combine with 1 oxygen atom. And then it forms a molecule of water. And many molecules of water together forms matter. So if we come it in a descending way, what we will see? Matter is comprised of molecule. Over here, matter is comprised of molecule. Molecule in turn is comprised of small components known as atom. Atom is again comprised of two parts. One is the atomic nucleus, as in this picture you can see in the center that it is comprised of atomic nucleus, which is again made up of proton and neutron. Surrounding this nucleus in definite orbit or shape, that is imaginary pathway, we get electrons. So these are the components that make up matter as a whole. Next, we will learn about the characteristics of matter. First point is particles of matter have space between them. If we follow properly, we will see that a space is found between the particles of matter, which is known as intermolecular space. Second point, particles of matter are very small. They are beyond our imagination. Means even if we try to view it under microscope or electron microscope or any kind of magnifying object, we will not be able to see them, which proves and shows that particles of matter are so small, even it is not visible to our naked eye. Means it is smaller than even viruses also. Next is particles of matter attract each other with the help of a force which is known as intermolecular force. And the last point, particles of matter move continuously. They are in random motion, they move very fast. So let us move on to the next slide. Let me explain you the point one by one. First point is particles of matter has intermolecular space. Now how we will prove that? Students, if you have ever wondered that when you have taken sugar and you have started dissolving it in water, what happens? Slowly but steadily, the sugar disappears, the solution is formed, but the level of water does not rise. Now the question is, why? First of all, when you take water, it is found in liquid state. Now in liquid state, the molecules of water are found far away from each other. As you can see in this diagram, there is a huge intermolecular space in between. Okay, this is the space in between. Now what happens in between the space? This molecule of sugar settles themselves. When these molecules settle in between these intermolecular spaces, they finally dissolve in water and then vanishes or disappears. For this reason, the water level does not rise, but sugar mixes well in water, and it proves that particles of matter definitely has intermolecular space in between. Otherwise, this phenomena was not possible. Next is particles of matter are always in random motion. This we will prove. The second characteristics of matter we will prove that particles of matter are always in random motion. The diagram which is shown over here, students, over here, what I have done is I have taken a flask, and in that flask I have put few drops of ink, and after dropping the ink, what do we observe? We observe that after some times the molecules of ink start spreading from its region where the concentration of the ink was more to the region where concentration of the ink is less. It is a kind of phenomenon of diffusion also. Now these molecules of ink moves and distributes throughout the water and finally mixes uniformly and the water turns blue. So it proves that particles of matter are definitely in random motion. Otherwise, this phenomena of movement of ink and again also its distribution in uniform manner would not have taken place. If we add drops of ink in water, slowly it mixes uniformly in blue water. Mixes with water and turns it blue. Now what happens if we drop ink in water? Slowly it mixes uniformly in water and turns it blue. Thus it shows that particles of matter are always in random motion. Next is, we will prove that particles of matter has intermolecular space. But how we will prove that? Suppose you have taken water on a spoon or in the or on the palm of your hand. Then what happens? You simply sprinkle that water on the floor. What do you observe? You will observe that the water thrown on the floor forms droplet. Now the question is, water so thrown on the floor forms droplet. But why? Why it is forming droplets like this? Because the molecules of water attract each other with a very strong intermolecular force, which makes them form drops like this on the floor. This proves that definitely a force of attraction works between the molecules of water, and so the molecules of water are behaving like this. Another example which I will give you is Suppose you try to break a chalk, as the diagram is shown over here. It shows a group of chalks together over here. If you take one piece of chalk from this group and you try to break them, you will see that at first the breaking will not be easy, but even if you break it, it will break into two pieces. It will not form a powdery mass, but it will break into pieces. Why? Into two pieces. Why? Because a strong intermolecular force is working between these molecules of chalk, and ultimately it breaks into two pieces, which shows that particles of matter has intermolecular force of attraction. So in order to conclude today's lesson, so what we have learned today, first of all, we have learned what is matter. That is, water. Matter is anything that has mass and occupies space. Then with the help of some experiment, we proved that matter occupies space, matter has mass. At the beginning, we used that balloon experiment to prove that, and in the second experiment, we took the glass and the marble to prove that water has both mass and occupies space. Next, we learned about the composition of matter, that matter is made up of molecules, atoms, and subatomic particles like electron, protons, and neutrons. Next, we learn about the characteristics of the particles of matter. That is, first of all, they are made up of atoms and molecules. Second, they are very tiny in appearance and even it is not at all visible to our naked eye. Third, they have intermolecular force in between. Fourth, they have intermolecular space in between. After that, with the help of some experiment, we proved that matter particles of matter are always in random motion. That we proved with the help of the ink experiment. Second, we proved that matter has intermolecular particles of matter have intermolecular space in between. In that case, we used the sugar solution to explain it. And at the last, we proved that particles of matter has intermolecular force. And while explaining it, I took the example of water droplet on the floor and the chalk experiment. So I hope, students, that you all have understood today's video lesson. Go through this video lesson and ask me the clarifications and doubt whatever you have in our next live session. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.